Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Chrissy Civic, career coach and corporate trainer and founder of eatyourcareer.com, helping you create a nourishing professional life. Welcome to this month's free Q&A session, Ask the Career Coach, where I will address all of your career challenges and try to offer any help and guidance that I can to help you have a more enriching and nourishing professional life. All right, so I'm going to pause for just 1 minute and make sure that you can all see me and hear me. So over in the chat menu, if you guys can see me and hear me, if you would type the word yes, that would be really helpful. And I'll take a look to see what we have going on over there. Awesome. It looks like we have people from Maryland, Ohio, Atlanta, Orlando, Southern California, Houston, St. Paul, Minnesota. Ooh, these are going so fast. Houston, Texas. Lots of people can see me and hear me. That's awesome. I always like to do that AV check so I'm not talking to myself, which we all know has happened from time to time. All right, it's so good to be back here with all of you. I know we took last month off for summer vacation. And for those of you who don't know, if you didn't read my blog, I went on a week-long trip to Disney World. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. We went to every single Disney park and we went to Harry Potter World. So I went with my boyfriend and his 2 teenage daughters. And then my parents came and joined us for 2 days as well. So it was an amazing family experience and one that I had to take a little bit of time to recover from. Because if you've never been to Disney World for a full week, then you don't know the craziness that it is. But it's crazy. It's a lot of people and it's a lot of walking. So my Fitbit got its own workout while we were there. Anyway, I am so glad to be back with you. I have a ton of questions that have come in through the question form online. And I also want to make sure that I address your questions in the chat menu as well. So you can type those in at any time. And I'll try to make sure that we save a little bit of time for that at the end of today's session. Feel free to go ahead and interact in the chat menu throughout the session as well and share your own experiences with any of the questions that we talk about. So many of them are really applicable, I think, to most people in the professional world. I think everyone can gain something from these questions. All right, let's go ahead and jump in. Our first question says, if you are doing the job of 3 people, how do you communicate this to your boss so you can discuss how to delegate or lift some of the responsibilities? I feel as if I'm constantly juggling and I feel I don't have the energy to focus on doing my entire job to the best of my ability. How can I get my boss to understand the situation and talk about alternative solutions to fix the problem? I'm sure some people can relate to this. I hear that term all the time. I'm doing the work of 3 people, or I'm doing the work of 5 people. And I do want to just say right from the get-go that I'm always leery of that terminology. So to the person who wrote this question and to all of you who might be fond of saying that, I encourage you to just steer away from that terminology. And the reason why is that the reality of the situation is you probably are not, it might feel like you're doing the work of 3 people, but if you really take into consideration, like if you left tomorrow, would your organization truly hire 3 full-time employees to cover the span of your work? The truth is probably not. They would probably be looking to hire someone who has a similar skill set to you and who can manage the workload as it is. They may do what you're talking about and delegate some of those responsibilities out to some other existing full-time employees. But more than likely, they probably wouldn't want to hire in 4 or 3 new full-time employees to cover your workload. So when you hear that terminology about doing the work of multiple people, what it says to management is it's just kind of a trigger warning for them that, oh, this is an exaggeration. They automatically think that you're kind of talking things up rather than talking about the reality of the situation. So when you go to discuss this with your boss, which I think is a really good idea, I would encourage you to, instead of using that broad, somewhat hyperbolic terminology, I would encourage you to talk instead about the specifics of the workload and really discuss all of the new things that are on your plate at this point. Talk about how you have been managing those things and the difficulties that have come out of that. And also go in with a plan for what you want to change. So the specifics about what tasks you feel would be easily delegatable. So the things that you would pass on to other people, and hopefully you can also recommend who those people might be. Of course, your manager is going to have a better idea of what everyone's workload is. So they're going to be able to make that final determination. But you might be able to say, you know, I know that Rebecca really enjoys this kind of task, and I would be happy to train her and get her up to speed so that she can take this over in the future. You can make those kinds of recommendations. I would also recommend that you really think about what responsibilities you want delegated versus which ones you want completely off your plate. So remember that delegation is not about getting something completely off your plate. It's about delegating the actual task, the doing of the task, but the main responsibility and accountability still remains on you. And that can take a lot of time still, because you need to be continuously checking in with that person you've delegated to. It's going to come back on you if they don't follow through. Versus if you actually just release the responsibility and you say, I'd like to completely get hands off with this responsibility, then it goes completely to another person and you don't have any portion of that. It doesn't come back on you. If they don't follow through, you're disconnected from it. So make that list in your mind. What do I want to delegate? Who possibly to? What do I want to release completely? Who possibly to? Make that a really specific list for yourself. And also, I would say that it would be helpful to maybe set up some procedures and some checklists, flow charts, any sort of useful tools that you can pass along to the people who might be taking over some of these responsibilities. So it's super easy for them. All they have to do is follow the checklist, go through the steps on the flow chart, and they can complete that task. So it might be a little more time on the front end for you to do that work, but it will make it so much easier and much more tempting, for your boss to say yes. If you say, I'm already set up to pass these things on. I have materials ready to go so the next person can step in and there's no gap in the work being done. So I hope that is helpful. All right. I think this is a really good lead-in for the next question. So the next question says, my CEO has tasked me with creating and maintaining a desk manual for my position. I've started the process in OneNote, which is a really great program, and it's going well. However, I'm sure that you and others have done such a handbook and was wondering what tips and checklists and wisdom you might have for this project. So I just mentioned this a minute ago, that if you're delegating out tasks, it can be really helpful to pass along procedures and checklists and things. So for this person, she's been tasked, he or she has been tasked with putting together a full and complete manual for the position that they're holding. And this is a wonderful project. It's very common for administrative professionals. Some of you know that I'm a former executive assistant. I do a lot of training and development with the administrative world. And yes, creating procedure manuals is a big piece of that. So I have created one myself in my role as an assistant. I currently keep one for myself now in my role as small business owner. And I will tell you, this is one of those tasks. It's a project. It's like an ongoing, continuous project. And it's one that I have a difficult time with. It's one of those things that's very simple in concept, and it's not easy to execute because it takes a lot of time. It takes continuous revision. And I just glanced over into the chat menu, and Melissa, you are reading my mind, because I am going to encourage everyone to participate in Julie Perrine's program on this project. If you are looking to create a procedures manual, she has an online program. She has all sorts of online resources for it. Her name is Julie Perrine, and her website is allthingsadmin.com. Julie is truly an amazing friend of mine, and I have picked her brain continuously for probably the last 10 years on procedures and processes. And there's really no one else more qualified to help you out with this. So I will tell you from my own experience that it is a continuous process. It's one I personally don't really enjoy, but I enjoy the fruits of my labor, which means that I like having the procedures and utilizing them once they're in place. But I find that you can't just do it once and forget it. You always need to be revising and updating things because, as we all know, things are constantly changing. So I'd love it if everyone who's in chat and is sharing that they also have created desk manuals, if you'd share some of your best practices, that would be great as well. And then, of course, check out Julie Perrine at allthingsadmin.com. I cannot give you a better resource on that. Thanks for the question. All right, our next one. This person says, what projects or actions should I take or do to transition into an event planner? Fantastic. So I love career transitions. I love big changes where someone is taking on a whole new role. But in order to do that successfully, you do need to do what this person is talking about, take on projects and take on anything that you can in your existing role to give you some experience and some transferable skills that you can use in that new career you're going after. So for this person who wants to get into event planning, what a cool field. I have always thought that would be really fun because I love big conferences, and I always have thought putting something like that together would be an enormous challenge, but also really, really fun. So my recommendations for you, it obviously depends on your existing role. Because I have such a large audience of administrative professionals, I'm going to assume that you're in some sort of admin capacity right now, and that's really good for you. That's a wonderful role for transitioning into a variety of different careers. So if you're looking to go into event planning, obviously you want to be volunteering to take on any sort of leadership role that you can for planning events and meetings. So meetings are also a component of that. They're run very similar to an event. It is a project that you manage in a similar way that you do to a larger event. I would also recommend that you consider going to professional associations and getting involved in, your current professional associations. If you are an administrative professional, going to ASAP, they have one of the largest conferences for administrative professionals happening in September of this year. They do it on an annual basis. They're always looking for people to be a part of various committees to help in the planning of that enormous event. Be a great thing for you to be a part of. Any professional association for your field or your industry is going to have leadership committees and groups of people to help them execute events, whether it's a networking event or an educational event, and you can be a part of that. And then finally, you can always create or suggest new events within your organization. So an easy example for that would be to potentially launch a lunch and learn series. So that's an ongoing event that you could launch. It would be something that, it might not even cost your organization any money because people could come to the event during lunchtime, bring their own lunch. You could either create a training yourself or open up a discussion topic for everyone to share best practices. You could potentially invite speakers and trainers like me to do a virtual session for your group. There's all sorts of things that you can do to, practice your event planning skills in that way with, a lunch and learn series or even like a before work type of training series or a wellness series, anything like that. So try to just get creative with it. And I think you'll find that there are a lot of opportunities to build your event planning resume in your existing career. Good luck with that. Okay. Let's see here. Our next question says, have you got some tips for how to manage a small admin team with efficiency, as I would like to be an office manager? Fantastic. So management tips. This person is asking about managing a team with efficiency. And remember that management is about both efficiency and effectiveness. So it's focusing on the right things, doing them at the right time in the right way. And I think that the best managers in the world are managers who support the development and growth of the people on their team. So they are really good at communicating with team members and finding out, hey, you know, what are your talents? What are your interests in the workplace? What are your goals? And then they try to help those people use their talents and access their interests and achieve their goals on a regular basis. They provide that support and training that everyone in the workplace needs. So if you're looking to transition into management, I think the best thing you can do for yourself is to demonstrate that you have those qualities, that you are a really supportive team member, that you can see people's talents and you can acknowledge those talents and utilize them, and you can help train people. If someone expresses that they have an interest in learning how to do something new, you can say, hey, I know how to do that, and I'd love to sit down and talk to you about it. That's demonstrating management skills, even when you're just a team member. That's a great way to position yourself and make yourself more visible for becoming an office manager, becoming a manager of some sort. So I hope that that is helpful for you. Thanks for the question. All right. Next question says, how do I ask for a raise and get results? I've worked for this company for 14 years, and the raise is reflected in our annual year-end bonus, which has grown over the years. However, the salary has been the same for me since 2004. Ooh, that's a long time to have the same salary. I don't want to come off ungrateful, but I would like to ask for an increase in my monthly salary with tact. Great question. A lot of people are really leery of asking for a raise. And look, I want to be very clear here. It's been more than 10 years since you've had a raise. Just let that sit in for a minute. Yes, I understand that you're getting your annual bonus at the end of the year, and that's fantastic. But it doesn't make up for the fact that your monthly salary has not changed at all in over 10 years. I know that you said that you don't want to come off as ungrateful. Here's the thing, wipe that mindset completely, because it's not ungrateful to recognize your value and to speak up and ask for what you're worth. You can be grateful for things in your life and still want more. Most of us can understand that in our personal lives, right? You can have a really great personal life and go, I'm so happy and I'm so fortunate and I'm so grateful for my amazing family, my amazing friends. But you know what? I want even more. I want greatness, forever. And I want to deepen my wonderful relationships with my family. And I want us to enjoy each other even more and have more time for that. You can be grateful and want more at the same time. So I want you to forget about that concern of not looking grateful, because what I want you to do now is really embody a very empowered mindset that you need to go in and talk about your monthly salary in a way that is very confident and in a way that your management and leadership can hear and understand and agree with. So the way to do that is very simple. It's instead of talking about, it's been 13 years since I've had a pay raise, I want you to talk about your achievements and the measurable value of the work that you're doing, what impact that has had on your organization and your team over the past 13 years. So I want you to talk numbers. So there is an article that I have on my website, and I will hopefully try to remember to link that article in the career library where the replay of this video is. If I don't remember that, you can always just search on the website. It's called How to Deliver Value to Your Organization or something like that. But it's about this concept of delivering value and the measurable impact of the work that you're doing. There are 6 ways to deliver value. You can save money for your company, or you can make money for your company. You can improve the quality of your products and services, or you can improve the productivity and efficiency with which those products and services are delivered. And then finally, you can fix an existing problem, or you can prevent a problem from occurring. If you have achieved any of those 6 things, you have had a measurable direct impact to your organization. So I want you to go through and create a whole long list of all of the things that you've achieved and accomplished that have hit in one of those 6 areas of delivering value. And those are the things that I want you to talk about when you go in to ask for your raise. I want you to, talk about numbers as much as possible, improving productivity by 20%, saving the organization, $300,000, whatever it is. Talk about those numbers. And then I also want you to talk about the numbers of your role, people who are in your area with comparable experience and a comparable job title. What are the pay ranges? Since you've been with this organization for a long time, I'm guessing you probably have a lot of accomplishments, and you should be on the higher end of that range. So take some evidence to back up the pay raise that you're asking for. A lot of times when people have gone a really long time without a raise, they want to have a 50% raise all at once. And that's unlikely. So also try to keep your expectations reasonable with what you're going in for, and recognize that, yes, you haven't had a raise in a very long time. So logically, you might be thinking, I should be able to bump up pretty hugely, considering this gap that you've had here. But it's just not likely. Most organizations don't do huge pay bumps, even when there has been a lag in raises over the years. So I hope that's helpful to you. And I hope that you can get past the idea that asking for a raise is not showing gratitude. This is probably a good time to be asking for it. You're right in the middle of the year. The year-end bonus is not coming for another 6 months. And so, that's kind of off the table. That's not a consideration in this. What you're looking at is your monthly salary and the value that you're delivering compared to that stagnant salary that you've been dealing with. So hope that is helpful. All right. Our next question here, and yes, I do see all of you in chat, and I'm going to go through chat at the end of today's session, make sure that we hit on all of your questions and share comments and things too, but keep it going in there. I'm glad to see that. All right. Our next question says, I've been an admin at all levels for more than 39 years. I'd like to try something else, but I don't know what, and I don't have a college degree. How do I begin? Ooh, I love this question. Well, being an admin for more than 39 years, you've got a lot of skills, transferable skills is what we call those, skills that you've gained in one career that you can absolutely utilize in another career. I think admin is one of the best roles for that because you do such a wide variety of work. Like we talked about earlier with the person who was interested in becoming an event planner. I've seen people move from admin to being a project manager, admin to being in human resources. There's a lot of different roads that you can take from where you are. So the world is your oyster right now. I noticed that you did add in there that you don't have a college degree. That's cool. Don't let that prevent you from going through this process of trying to determine what a more fulfilling career would be for yourself. A lot of people can let that kind of self-sabotage talk of, I don't have a degree, so I'm limited. It can stop a lot of people. Don't let that happen for yourself. So my recommendation is the same recommendation that I give everyone who asks this question. It's a 4-step process. It's what I do with my career coaching clients. So I'll talk you through the 4-step process. Some people can kind of play with it on their own. The reason why career coaching is so valuable is because you get an outside perspective, and you also have somebody who has been there and done that many, many times over again, who can help guide you in the right directions when you get stuck. If you do this on your own, it's very easy to either get overwhelmed and set it aside, or get complacent, decide not to go any further with it, or you just don't know kind of how to navigate the path. So generally, the process that I use with career coaching clients, as I said, it's 4 steps. So step number 1 is envisioning. So you're starting by envisioning your big picture life that you want to create. Your career is one component. It's one slice of that whole life pie. And you need to know what your whole life that you are creating, what that should look like for yourself. What do you want that to look like in 5 to 7 years, 10 years? What do you want that to look like when you hit retirement? Consider your financial goals. Consider the goals that you have for your family and your friends and your relationships. Your career needs to help support those things. Ultimately, my goal is always to help people find a career that enriches every other aspect of life. So you need to start big like that. I've done another session in the past about creating your career vision and understanding your own professional values. Those things are all a part of that big picture envisioning process, which is the first step. The second step is exploring. So starting to think about what skills you have to offer, those transferable skills, what natural talents you have, and other assets that you have in your back pocket to deliver to an organization. Really exploring that, really exploring who you are, the value that you deliver, and how that can potentially work into the marketplace. The third step is evaluating. So you're really starting to look at some options for how your skills and talents and experience and assets can work in the marketplace. You're looking at those options and you're starting to evaluate that against your own needs, remembering your big picture life goals. Okay, how well do these things match with my life goals over here? And then you're making a decision, hopefully by the end of that third step. And then the fourth step is execution. So you're creating your plan for making that transition. The plan typically needs to involve all of those job search strategies that we've talked about in other past webinars. Revising your resume, making it customized for that new position, practicing your interview skills and your own story about why you're making this career change. So it's a process, that's it at a really fast, high level. But that's what career coaching for me is all about. I do a very structured program like that. Not all career coaches do. But if you're just starting this process, you can grab a book on the topic and just see what comes up for you. What color is your parachute is a great one. Now what is another great one. And I forgot who wrote Now What. But there's some steps you can go through. I'll also give a personal plug here. Build Your Professional Development Plan, my workbook. It's Prime Day, Amazon Prime Day, by the way, and my workbook's on sale. So this is a good process too. It's the career coaching model, just kind of broken down into developing a plan. It's something that's fully self-paced, obviously, because it's a workbook. But that would be a good way to start as well. So check out those tools and resources just to get started. And then if you need some more assistance, more one-on-one guidance, shoot me an email. Check out my career coaching page. This is the type of work I love to do. Thanks for the question. Okay. Our next question says, 4 years ago, I worked with an SES, and I'm assuming that this is a senior executive of some sort. That this person worked for. I carried an Android and a tablet, and I worked from home. I went to executive meetings. I made sure that the office chiefs carried out the assignments they were given. He passed, and I was placed in a new position with a new SES. I don't have the same responsibilities, and it's very frustrating. This office does not look at the admin in the same light. I don't know if it's time to move on or try to move up and get them to see my value, but I've been here for 3 years and I don't see that happening. I feel so trapped, and I know that I need to move on to fulfill my purpose of helping my supervisor to move up and shine. Please help. This is an interesting question because I feel like the person answered her own question. The very last sentence says, I feel so trapped and I know that I need to move on to fulfill my purpose of helping my supervisor to move up and shine. So, if you're asking, should I move on or should I stay and try to make things work here? I think you answered your own question. There are a lot of great opportunities for administrative professionals and executive assistants. So I would encourage you to potentially look around and try to find that wonderful relationship that you had before in the past. If you decide that you do want to stay in your existing organization and you want to try to find a way to help them understand your value and how to utilize you, that's going to take a concerted effort. You need to develop a plan for how you're going to approach that. And you also need to recognize what you can control versus what you can influence versus what you have no control or influence over. And, a lot of this might be out of your control. If there is an organizational culture that does not utilize administrative professionals to the fullest extent and potential that they can offer, there's only so much you can do. So if you decide to stay, make sure you have a very strong plan in place. But I feel pretty confident that you answered your own question. You said, I know I need to move on to find fulfillment. So listen to yourself and take some action to find the role that you're going to find fulfilling again, because you know it is possible. I hope that's helpful. All right, we have 3 more questions that have been submitted through the question form, and then we will head on over to chat. So remember to type your question into the chat menu and mark it as a question. That way it pops up and it's red for me and it catches my eye. All right, this question says, I'm in the early stages of planning to launch a brick and mortar business. So cool. In the meantime, I'm in a job that pays well, but I'm dissatisfied with. I've applied for several positions and I'm wondering, do I stick it out with this current position until I launch my business? Or should I move on in the meantime, even though I dislike my current job? So this is a hard question. This person is looking to start a brick and mortar business, which means that there's going to be a physical presence somewhere. And that could take a little bit of time because this person says, I'm in the early stages of planning. It can take a long time to get to a place where you're ready to execute on that plan and start your business. And businesses take a lot of time and typically a large financial investment on the front end. So, I'm torn here because the career coach in me says, if you're not happy, we've got to do something about that. And, there's plenty of opportunities out there where you can be happy. But I'm also a realist. And the reality is that a job search takes a lot of time. Starting a new job takes a huge amount of time and energy. It's emotional energy. It's mental energy. And when you come home at the end of the day after starting a new job, you don't want to work on that plan for your business. So what can happen if you decide to make a job transition right now, you may find that your business plan gets put on the wayside. You kind of set that on the back burner because you're so focused now on this new direction that you've got to go in for your job. And I'm concerned about that. So I would ask you to just think about those ramifications and how that makes you feel. If starting a new position were to take you away from your business planning efforts for a period of time, would that be okay with you? Right now, you're in a position that it sounds like it's stable It's good money, so you could potentially save a little bit for your business venture. And you already know what you're doing, so you can continue forward, and in the evenings and weekends, you can really focus on getting your business up and rolling. The concern there is that you'll stay in that position that you don't like, and you won't get the business off the ground, and then you'll really feel like, gosh, I've stayed in this position I'm unhappy with for extra years trying to get this business up and rolling, and now it's just not going to happen. So I'm the type of person that I always think through what each strategy would look like, 10 steps down the line, and then how that makes me feel. So I encourage you to think that through. Probably on the face of it, if I was in this situation, I'd probably stick it out in the existing position that I know, so that I can have the time and energy to focus on getting the business up and running. Because a lot of us who are entrepreneurs, like me, I've got my own business. That's the true passion. If I go and I get a job, it could be good and it could be fulfilling on one hand, but I'm always going to be thinking about that business because that's where my true heart and soul really lies. So if that's true for you, I think your focus needs to be there. I hope that's helpful. I know I just gave you just a lot to think about, but hopefully it's helpful stuff. All right. This question says, how do you regain your executive's trust and confidence after breaching that trust? Great question. I just wrote an article about this for Ivy Exec, and I think it's common. These things happen. We're all human, and you can breach your executive's trust for any variety of reasons that are, sometimes kind of out of your control. Sometimes it can be things that are really innocent, and then they come back and bite you, and you realize, gosh, now he or she doesn't trust me, and you've got to then rebuild that over time. So strategies to do that. Number one, like I just said, over time. It takes time, so you've got to recognize that. You have to be patient. You can't regain trust overnight in most cases. So it's about consistency. It's about continuously following through on promises, even the small ones. That's something that I think everybody gets a little bit lazy on. They say, oh yeah, I'll have that for you by the end of the day today. And then they don't submit it until the next morning. That's a breach of a promise, in my opinion. So at this point, when you're trying to regain trust, every little promise like that has to be followed through on. If you say you're going to get something to them in the next 2 hours, get it to them in the next 2 hours. If you can't, you need to address that early on. And very honestly, I can't get it to you as I had promised, and I'm going to make sure that I have it to you by the end of the day tomorrow, whatever it is. Give them real clarity. Be very, very vigilant on your word. That's such a big piece of this. And then another piece that's really interesting, and I was reading about this as I was putting together that article last month for Ivy Exec. It's this concept of sacrificing for the benefit of the team. One way to gain back trust is to really demonstrate your willingness to sacrifice something on your end so that other people can benefit from that, so that your executive can benefit from that, so that your team can benefit from that. And what that means is that you are saying something like, you know what, I'll be the one to stay late tonight. So everybody else go home. I'll make sure that this project gets completed, and I'll stay late to do that. That's a sacrifice on your part, sacrificing your personal time outside of work so that everybody else can go home and your executive can have peace of mind that you'll do it. So those types of little things, that you're saying, I'm going to put your happiness and your productivity ahead of my own happiness, that helps to affirm trust hugely. So any opportunity that you have to do those types of little things, take advantage and be willing to sacrifice a little bit of your own comfort so that other people can benefit from it. I hope that helps. All right. We have one final question that just came in this morning. This person says, I'm trying to discover different job titles for similar jobs in different industries. I've been unsuccessful in using different keywords and speaking directly to individuals in those industries. Do you have any other ideas about how to obtain this information? So because I know this person personally, I've worked with this person in the past. I know that she's in the middle of a job search. And what she's asking here is, okay, I know that the title that I refer to my job as is this, but what are the other titles that people use for this job? And so it's a great question. The strategy of talking to people in industries is always a good one. It seems like this person hasn't had much luck with that. So what I'll share is that you can always go to federal databases too. It's much more boring research, but looking at the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, looking at ONET, which is run by the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Employment, looking at, what else is there? Career One Stop. That's another one that I believe is run by the Bureau of Labor and Employment. Those sorts of federal databases sometimes can have a little more information. But what I would say is that the various titles being used in different organizations are less important than the keywords that you're using. Searching for the keywords of the key skills that you offer, the key terms for your job position. That's what's going to give you search results in employment databases. So what you may be finding is that there's just a limited number of titles for your position. Not every position has 50 different titles associated with it. For those people who are on this session and in the administrative field, that is a field that has 100 different titles for it. But this person specifically, I know that she's in graphic design, and graphic design, I don't think has quite as many different titles associated with it. So it's more about those keywords, those key terms that you are typing into your employment searches. That's really what's going to bring up the right information for you, much more so than the title information. I hope that is helpful. Okay. I am going to jump over to the chat menu. We've got plenty of time to address a few more questions here. I'm going all the way down to the bottom. You guys have been talking a lot in today's session. I love that. Okay, so our first question here says, do you suggest joining an admin group in your area? What if you haven't been able to find one? I always do like suggesting in-person, local groups for professional development, where you're getting together with other people who are in your field to share best practices, do some education and training together, network. I think that's fantastic. As far as admin groups go, though, locally, I find it's more challenging these days because IAAP, the International Association of Administrative Professionals, stopped doing chapters. Local chapters of IAAP used to be much more prevalent, and they stopped supporting the chapters on the local level a few years ago. So they are not as prevalent anymore for administrative professionals. But that doesn't mean that you can't find a local admin group. Meetup.com is a surprisingly robust database and a great place to find some local groups for professional activities. What I've started doing personally is that when I go to a large conference and I meet people that I really love and I'd love to stay connected with and learn from in the future, I do virtual coffee dates with them. I currently have a virtual mastermind group of other speakers and trainers for the administrative audience. We get together on a video call once every 2 weeks, and we do our networking and sharing of best practices, just us, as if we were a local group, but virtually, because it's just we have this opportunity available to us to connect with people around the country and around the world. So that's how I take advantage of it. So kind of think outside the box on this. If you're looking for a local group and having trouble with it, maybe next time you go to a conference, get business cards from 5 different people you'd love to connect with. Ask them all to be in a virtual mastermind group with you, and make that your local sharing of best practices and training and things. Hope that's helpful. Okay. I'm seeing a shout out here for Office Dynamics, as well as all things admin. I did recommend Julie's procedures resources earlier. And Office Dynamics is run by Joan Burge, who's also another personal friend of mine. I mean, these are great people. There's so much to learn from these amazing professionals. We all do free stuff on a regular basis. So, you know, you can get so many free resources, free education. You can take advantage of that, especially, you know, administrative professionals. We've got so much stuff going on for you guys. So yes, Office Dynamics conference in October is fantastic. I see a lot of people mentioning some positive things about Office Dynamics, and that's great. Okay. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through chat here, so forgive me as I space out for a minute over here in the chat menu. Here's a question. This person says, I'm a new executive assistant at a small construction company. I sort of fell into the role. Where can I turn to for advice, mentoring, and learning about being the best assistant I could be? Hello. We all just answered your questions. Office Dynamics, Julie Perrine, everybody's typing them in for you. So that is fantastic. You have a lot to pick from as you move forward. Good luck to you. Okay, next question. I've been with my company for 17 years and there is no growth, and I've been told no increase. I have had 3 increases from 50 cents to $1. Is it time to be moving on because I'm 52 years old? So I'll just say this kind of as a blanket statement for everyone. If you're going longer than like 3-4 years without having any sort of a significant increase in your job responsibilities and, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? A relational pay raise that is commiserate with that. You know, it's in line with an increase in responsibilities. If that hasn't happened in like 3 to 4 years, it's time to be sitting down, having some really serious conversations, and then considering moving on. Because a lot of times it's awful to realize this, but a lot of times you have to move out of your organization to advance your role. It just happens, and it's unfortunate because you're a known asset to that organization. They should want to pay you more, give you more responsibility, advance you, support your development. But unfortunately, a lot of organizations are very short-sighted. They don't do that. So in order for you to grow as a professional and get more money, you got to move outside of the organization. So if, you know, I'm of the mindset that 3 to 4 years, if that's not happening, that's when you start those serious conversations. If you've been with the company for 17 years and this hasn't been happening, you know, yeah, you're in a bit of a rut here. So I think that take the advice I mentioned earlier about asking for a raise after a long period of time, and use that. And then also, you know, if you are considering moving on, I've answered some questions in the past about moving on when you're over the age of 50. I don't think that it is, you know, necessarily, you know, a point against you, especially if you're positioning yourself in the right way. You have a lot of experience. You have a lot of skills that would be very useful to a lot of organizations. And you might have to move outside of your organization to get the appropriate pay that you're truly worth after 17 years of no raise. I hope that's helpful. I love that so many people are sharing their advice too on these questions. It's great to see that we all are feeling, you know, generally the same way about these things, that you deserve to be paid what you're worth, you know, and there are a lot of options out there. So I never like it when people feel like they're stuck anywhere. You're never stuck. It's an effort to make a change, but there's a lot of opportunity out there. Please, please look around. All right. Next question says, hi there. I'm interested in becoming a workplace well-being coach. Any good certificate programs you can suggest? I have a BA in psychology, MA in counseling, and 10 years of teaching experience in addition to human rights research and advocacy under my belt. So lots of different things going on here. And so the question about being a workplace well-being coach and certification, there's a lot of different certifications, and probably a life coaching certification would be a good start. I went through CTI, which is the Coaches Training Institute, and I absolutely love their core curriculum. It is a wonderful way to understand the broad concepts of coaching someone and how that is different from counseling someone. So that'd be a great place to start. I would also consider, potentially getting some official career coaching certification as well. I am a certified PCM, professional career manager, which is a certification offered through a company called Talent Guard. That's great for adding some process to the work that you do with people, especially within an organization. It's really important that you have a clear structure for how you work with people and how you determine the goals that people are focused on and the steps that you take to help them reach those goals. So I hope that's helpful. Next question here. How do you get coworkers in different departments in your workplace to see the value in procedures manuals? We assist our business office with certain tasks, but they have no written procedures. When we meet with them to learn new tasks, we have to take our own notes, which is frustrating. How do you get people to see the value in procedures manuals? I think that, they have to use it to feel that value. So if you're asking them to put together procedures and they don't currently have procedures, they've never needed them before, they don't know how valuable it is, they're not going to be so inspired to do it. But perhaps if you take one major procedure from them and you do the map out of it, you put together those procedures for them and you use that as their sample of here it all is laid out. I want you to use this for X period and start to see the value. And then let them know how they can use it. When people are out sick, when people are on vacation, when you lose an employee suddenly, all of these procedures can come into play. So I think that people do kind of have to experience it, or they have to experience the pain of not having it to know it's needed. Right now, you're in this kind of no man's land where they haven't needed it. They don't understand why it would be useful. So give them a taste. Let them see how useful that one written procedure could be. I have a question from Jan who says, how was Orlando? So for those of you who might have missed the beginning of today's session, I was in Disney in Orlando for a full week last month. And Orlando was fabulous. It rained every single day. I was not prepared for that. I, brought a ton of sundresses. Not that the rain was cold, but, when you get wet and then it's, humid in the afternoon. So it was like classic, summer weather in the South, I guess. But the cool part about Orlando and our time there is that, we had such good family bonding. My boyfriend has 2 teenage daughters and they still love Disney. They are like toddlers. And then my parents, who were in their 70s, came for 2 days as well. And I got to see them, really enjoying seeing our family enjoying Disney. So it was just a really cool, fun vacation for everyone. But like I said, I needed recovery time from that vacation because it was tiring. Okay. I'm just taking another glance back through comments. So many people have contributed great things. I'm just seeing a comment here about no company career letter. A lot of organizations have kind of gotten away from the structured career ladder sort of thing, where you start out as an administrative assistant 1. And then after 2 years in demonstrating these skills, you become an administrative assistant 2. And after 2 years in demonstrating these skills, you become an executive assistant 1. You know, that kind of ladder sort of system and pathing doesn't exist so much in most organizations anymore. So we have to create our own paths, which, again, shameless plug, build your professional development plan. You know, you can define what you want that path to look like and the skills that you need to demonstrate to get there. And if you show that and work with your manager on that, then you can have some leadership support in that process too. And you're really developing your own ladder for advancement. So give that a shot too. I'll point out too, since we're kind of rounding out at the end of today's session, as I said before, it is Amazon Prime Day. For those of you who do have the Amazon Prime membership, tons and tons of deals. So my workbook and the Proactive Professional, my book, both of these are on discount for Amazon Prime for today only. There are like thousands of deals going on Amazon. So be careful, because once you start looking, you'll get sucked in for hours if you're anything like me. But I sent out an email earlier this morning with information on those discounts, and take advantage. Like I said, it's only there for 24 hours. There are so many great resources in the chat menu. I'll tell you what I'm going to try to do is just maybe I'll either try to capture the chat and put a transcript of the chat in the resource library for everyone, or I'll just go through and capture all of the great resources that everyone is sharing. So if you think that would be helpful to you, you can let me know in chat. But I think that's what I'll try to do, because I'm just seeing so much good stuff from so many people. I don't want that to get lost when we shut down our session today. Office Ninjas is one I have not heard of before, but it sounds pretty cool. Gonna have to check them out. Okay, I will pause for one more minute here and just see if anyone has any final burning questions that they want to get out of the way. And I will touch on that if so. If not, we will go ahead and wrap up. So another minute here for you to type in your question. Oh, I've got people saying that IAAP now has local area networks, which I guess has taken the place of chapters. So very cool. Hopefully those are thriving, because I remember hearing about the chapters going away a few years ago. And then since then, I have not seen as much from our chapters here in my area. So glad to know that IAAP has replaced chapters with local area networks. Very cool. I'm gonna have to research that. Okay, good. People are saying yes to the chat menu or the reference list. So fantastic. All right. Well, I think that I don't see any other questions that are coming in. I want to thank everyone so much for being here today for the live session. It just makes this so much more fun when you guys are here and you're interactive and you're asking questions. And hopefully it's very helpful to you and you find it to be a good use of an hour of your day. So thanks for being here. I will hopefully see you in our free training webinar, which is happening this month on the topic of building a powerful resume. We're talking about best practices for resume writing. Lots of great stuff to share with you in that webinar. I hope you can make it to that session. And I will see you next month for another live Q&A session where you can ask the career coach. Thanks, everyone. Bye.